Hey YouTube, um, I would hope that this video finds you well. I would hope that you're not contemplating going to part two if you've read the description because yeah, in this video I'm not going to be playing any music. I'm just going to be talking to you about a few things in regards to this subject because it's a very extensive subject and I just wanted to share a few things um, that hopefully you've thought about and kept them kind of at least somewhat entertained in your mind in regards to Harp Warriors and prayer meeting. Um, I've been asked to do a tutorial on this, and so I will. I won't just leave people in waiting and wanting. But before I went into detail as far as musically what I was doing and what you know I typically will play in a prayer meeting, I just wanted to take time and do just a little, I guess, overview of things and just make sure that, um, people aren't of the mindset that it's all about just the music side. I wanted to make sure that, it was clear that there is a spiritual component to this and that they go hand in hand. Um, I think it's necessary for uh, any Christ Gospel musician that is thinking about playing for Harp Warriors prayer meeting, or if you currently do, you should have an understanding of what's going on at all times and what you need to be doing at all times. And I don't say that um, in any way to make it seem like I know everything because I don't, and I continue to learn. And but I've had chances to watch and experience and see what happens, and um, to me, it seems that uh, from what I've seen, in different Christ Gospels, um, it's pretty much, the same format. And so whenever I've been able to play, it seems like, there's kind of a tried and true way that has worked for me. So I kind of keep that in my mind. And so when it came up, hey, you should do a tutorial for Harp Warriors, I thought that the best way to approach it would be to make two separate videos, one just on the spiritual component and one on the musical component. Um, and, you know, in approaching that, I almost didn't want to do it because it's just there's so many details to it. I guess, and maybe if you don't see it that way, then it might just be me and I'm maybe overanalyzing, but, I'll take that. Um, First and foremost, I want to, I guess, say that I'm going to approach Harp Warriors in a way that would seem uh, almost crude to do so, and I'm going to approach it from the aspect of phases. And I don't mean in any way to be disrespectful or tactless by doing that, but I think if I can analyze it that way, then everybody that's listening then can have some semblance of what I'm talking about when I talk about, you know, going into this phase of Harp Warriors, and so everybody understands. Um, from what I've seen, there are basically 5 phases into a Harp Warriors prayer meeting. I'll list them really quickly and then I'll go phase by phase and then I'll talk about, um, as far as I've seen, what I do in prayer meetings and how things are done here in Jeff. And then, of course, you have to do what you do in your own church. If you, feel compelled to, to modify things, then I hope that you are able to do so. If not, maybe just take what I'm saying, see if you can adapt it in some way. And if not, it's just always good information. Um, the first phase that I, you know, will label, and I feel badly even doing that because I'm not trying to make a science out of prayer meeting, but the first phase, I guess, of things would be the phase where people, come in and are being sanctified. Um, uh, they come in, get anointed, and then we, join in the circle, and someone is leading in prayer as we go to the laver by faith. Wash your hands and feet. Go to the brazen altar. All the parts of sanctification, blood, fire, and water. You know, um, there's music during that, and as a musician, one thing that I stand by. Um, and especially in prayer meeting because there are no words. If you are going to be an effective musician in a prayer meeting, you have to um, embody, you have to be musically what's happening physically. You have to be able to do that. And so if you are at a loss at how to do that, then you are going to have a few maybe altered awkward gaps in your prayer meeting. During this phase, you should be playing heart realm music. Whatever the people are doing, you have to do that musically. If they're interceding, you have to provide an environment, an atmosphere through the music that you're playing that provokes a sense of brokenness in that person. Um, and I know that seems like almost a duh type of a thing, and I'm not trying to be insulting, but you have to know, okay, they're down, interceding, they're getting they're sanctifying themselves, going to the labor. Well, it's not time right at that moment to go into the intense, high energy warfare that we all know and love, which is Harp Warriors. Harp Warriors is not just that. Harp Warriors is lifting up the name. And in each phase of the prayer meeting, that's happening. So you have to know, what you have to know what's happening, where you're headed, what the people are doing, that you're listening. It's not just about the music. And I guess maybe that's why I wanted to take time to do this first video. I was kind of getting um, the inclination that people were, approaching me about doing this, and maybe not that they hadn't thought of it in this light, but maybe that wasn't at the forefront. I'll put it that way. And I wanted to make sure that it was, because musically, if you don't have, as a musician, if you don't have, songs ready in your back pocket, so to speak, that you can play during this sanctification phase, if you will, you know, or something, anything heart realm. I mean, we'll go into specific music examples, and I'll kind of show you what to do in the next video. But as far, I'm just bringing it to the forefront that it's not just about the music, it's about the spiritual components, and it's about you exhibiting and again embodying the realm that the people are in at that point. So they come in, they get sanctified. The intercession is coming, and songs that I play during this time: "Let It Rain," uh, man, "Great Is Your Mercy." Uh, I mean, "More Love, More Power," "Breathe." All of those songs, you know, they're just good songs. "More Love, More Power," and "Let It Rain" are good ones, if not for grace. But the earlier two that I mentioned, they're good ones. Because they're already in a minor key, and so it makes it a lot easier for you to transition into the different areas of the more intense warfare, because you're already in a minor key, so you don't have to work at transitioning from a major to a minor. Um, that's one thing that I love about those songs, that they already readily lend themselves to. So that's that. Um, and so after that, then they're in intercession, and then the burden begins to fall. And so that intercession is slowly going into travail again. And I will again, I'm not trying to be insulting or anything, but make sure that you're not, as a musician, I'm speaking specifically to the musicians, make sure that as a musician, you are not trying to, and this is a horrible word for this, I'm sure there's another word, make sure you're not trying to push the people ahead of where they are. Um, a lot of times as musicians, especially in Harp Warriors, because, there's nothing like it, and it's high energy and it's intense. And a lot of times we just so desire to get to that part of it that we don't make sure that we spend enough time in these earlier stages of it. Um, I've found for me that if you spend the time that it takes, I know here in Jeff, there's typically 35 to 40 minutes before we even get to, just the low chanting part, where the travail has then gone into the chanting. There is a lot of time, there is adequate time given in these earlier parts of the prayer meeting, and it helps you and benefits you towards the end when you're in those high energy parts of the prayer meeting, because you've taken time to build the gratitude, to build the foundation of sanctification, and to do all of these things. And that's all Heart Warriors is gratitude, praise. And lifting up the name. And so since you've taken the time to do that and get the foundational building blocks, then there's less work, there's less effort musically, physically from the people, there, because you've allowed the Spirit then to take the foundation that you've built, through your intercession and gratitude, then, and the Spirit can lift you rather than you trying to lift the Spirit. I hope that makes sense. So make sure that as a musician, you are constantly following and noticing where the people are. Don't try to push them ahead to get to a certain spot, because you'll wind up doing more work that way. Make sure that you're giving adequate time. Now, I'll put a little caveat here. We have 2 hours for a prayer meeting allotted, and sometimes we go over, how we do. Um, you may be, and I've seen different churches, they have to meet from 5 to 6 on Sundays, in between service, or they meet, at another time. They don't have, that ability to just kind of just go however long that they can. So then, okay, you have to modify that. But even still, you'll find that things work better, I feel, if you allow the people to kind of lead, and you follow them. I mean, there are times where it's a mutual thing, but I think for the most part, you're following the people. And especially, if not in any other phase, which I doubt, but especially during these parts. So, phase one, sanctification, intercession. Phase two, going into, the travail and the burdens falling. Phase three is what I would say is when the travail begins to go into those low chants. And I found that it's not in a given phase that usually there's those minor train wrecks as far as musicians are concerned. I found that most of the train wrecks, musically speaking, come from the transitions, going in from this phase to that phase. And most of the time it's because they're not following the people. If they're following the people, they're going to be able to hear the pulse of that chanting. They're going to be able to hear the pulse of that travail, and they're not going to rush. They're going to allow the people to lead them into that. Uh, I think a lot of times also that if the leader that has the microphone, if they are aware that they're kind of a mediator, and that the musicians, if you have a leader that is, that the musicians are kind of following them first and foremost, and then also the people. So they've kind of got to be a go-between, and they need to, especially whenever the chanting starts to come in after the travail has led into that. I think that's a crucial phase, and I think that the leader, should, I guess, kind of keep in their mind the role that they play, and to make themselves more apparent and distinct vocally for the musicians to follow. Um, and so that still, again, music, make sure as a musician that you are following whoever is leading, and again, feeling that pulse. And even then, we're still not to the high energy part of it yet. We're still just those low chants and the long chants. And I've noticed here in Jeff that they take lots of time there. As musicians, you can tend to kind of divorce yourself from what's happening, but don't do that. Allow yourself, again, you may not be able to completely do what the people are doing, but you can still sanctify yourself from your instrument. You can still, take, pieces of what the people are doing. You can do that while you're playing. So, I found that the best times that I've played have been when I've done that. and I can, it's because I've allowed myself to join in with them, then I become one in a sense. And so it's not, again, it's not work to follow where they're going. Um, and so again, the low chants, I've noticed that there's a lot of time taken there building those low chants, low long chants, and just the dynamic, between the guys on, I guess if you want to say beats 1 and 3, and the girls on beats 2 and 4, it just kind of happens that way. Um, so yeah, so that's that part, and then little for little that phase builds, and as that builds, if I would musically speaking, in the first part of the prayer meetings, I'll just backtrack here really quickly. We have a motif here, so whenever I'm playing, I have piano, strings, brass, and I have my low drum, and then I'll turn my strings into another, I mean my piano into another strings once things get going. Um, the last instrument that I pipe in is brass, and that's usually when we are without a shadow of a doubt into that high energy part of it, or we're mounting up there. And again, musically, you have to know these things, and so I will typically start with my piano and strings, and then when things get into the low chant, I'll pipe in that low drum. We have a drummer, but it helps. I kind of you know act as a go-between as far as musicianally speaking, just because I'm at the piano. And then when we're finally pushing on into, I guess, what we call phase 4, that high energy phase, then we've got I pipe in that brass just a little full, and that that you know um, lets everybody else know that we're really kicking it in high gear. And then after that, um, I guess the last phase, when things are, after you finish the high energy part of it, things can go two ways. Usually, have songs to dance to. I am the Lord that healeth thee works. Psalm 150, something moves. All those. We win. All those. Songs that we know. Um, though it can go that way, and kids can dance, or if there's still a spirit of brokenness, then you can go back down into, I guess, the phase 1 music, if you want to call it that, and go back into that intercession. And then there have been times where we've dismissed, and there are still people still praying. So it helps to have a few songs in your back pocket. So that's basically it. I think an understanding, it helps to know that where the people are going and the part that you play in that, and knowing how to move musically. I think that helps. Um, there's a lot more that could be said, um, and we'll get more into the musical aspect of it later, but I did want to make sure that I took the time to explain things again from my perspective, what I've seen, what's happened, and this is just my perspective. So uh, I feel it necessary to share it in regards to music. For Harp Warriors, they're not two different things. It's not music and then Harp Warriors. You should know both of them and be a part and understand the role that you play. So we'll get more into the music in part 2. Um, I hope that you've maybe learned something interesting, or been able to think about it from a different perspective. I hope that has helped you, um, and we'll get more into specific things as far as the music that I play and how it's played in each phase of it. So thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, whatever it is that you'd like to do. And we'll get more into the music in the next video. Thanks for watching.